This is about you. I don't even know if I need this microphone, because I have a loud, booming voice to begin with, so I probably won't need it. I don't know. Can you hear? Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right, good. Then I'm not even going to use that thing. Well, welcome everybody. I'm Dean Manzetti with Equity Trust. Thank you, Tri-County, Susan, for inviting me. It's great. The weather here was great. I got in this morning. It was like half this where I came from. I flew in this morning from Cleveland, Ohio, and it was a brisk 40-something degrees. I got here, and it's like, oh, I could finally take my jacket off for the first time in 6 months. So it felt great. It felt great. Well, welcome and thanks again, everybody. As I mentioned, Dean Manzetti, Equity Trust. I had a quick question here before we get started. Do we have any newbies? Anybody here at Tri-County meeting for the first time? Any newbies out there? Oh, come on, don't be embarrassed, because I'll pick on you. You got, okay, we've got 3. Well, welcome, and I really encourage you to become part of their network. There's a lot of brain power in this room, there's a lot of knowledge in this room, and there's nothing better than networking. So, especially at a young age, I encourage you to get involved in the group, and thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to be talking about self-directed IRAs today. So let me go over what we're going to cover on our agenda here. We're going to talk about what is a self-directed IRA. A lot of people don't know what it is, or they think they know what it is, or they're not sure what it is, so we're going to talk about that. There's 7 different accounts that can be tax advantage in a multitude of ways that we're going to cover today too. Talk about that. And I'm going to spend a lot of time on some case studies because we've got some really, really great case studies that I've got some clients and I want to share their stories because I always love hearing what other people have done and how they've done it. So we're going to share a lot of that with you tonight. We're going to talk about getting started if you're interested in getting started with Equity Trust. We'll cover that a little bit, cover a little bit about our history, who we are, and then pricing and fees. Now what I did, I passed out, everybody should have, if you don't have, let me know. You should have 4 flyers on your table. Again, if you don't have the set of 4, let me know. You also each should have a card, looks like this, which I'd like each one of you to fill those cards out. I think it's just asking your name, email, what else we got in there? Your name, your email, your phone number for 2 reasons. Number 1, I'm going to be sending you some stuff that we covered tonight, some digital downloads of some really great information, and I'm going to do a drawing also at the end of the night. Unfortunately, I left my 2 books that I was giving away at the drawing back at my hotel, but that's okay. We're still going to do the drawing because I'll just mail them to you. So, and I got my fish bowl, so I'll collect those here towards the end of the evening, or if you just got a business card, I can throw your business card in there if you don't want to fill that out. So take notes. There's a lot of good stuff here, and let's hold off on our questions because a lot of your questions, write them down. A lot of the questions are going to be answered here in my presentation as we go forward. But write your question down, and then if we didn't, if you didn't get that answer, I've got about an hour here to spend with you. I'll stay as long as I have to and answer as many questions as I have to. But the majority of your questions are probably going to get answered. So here's the card I talked about. If you fill that out, that's a book that we're going to be giving away. It was from our founder, Dick Desich, who basically founded this industry back in 1974. Is when he started it. And the majority of that book, it talks about self-directing IRAs and what have you, but the majority of the book is case studies. There's 30 really, really good case studies in that book that people really, really like to learn and read about. So we're going to do that drawing tonight. I'll have 2 of them. Like I said, I'll mail them to you because I forgot them at my hotel. Apologize for that. But anyway, here's the first thing I want you to write down. I want you to write down this: compounding interest in the absence of taxation. Compounding interest in the absence of taxation. And I'm going to tell you a great husband and wife story who are living this today. Paying 0 taxes, making 6 figures a year, and not filing a return every year. It's a great, great story. I'm going to share it with you, tell you what they did, how they did it, and where they're at today. I have to do my disclaimer because our lawyers say I have to. So they want you to read this, so I'm sure you all read it. But basically, just tell you, equity trust, we're a passive custodian. We're not a bank, we do not give any financial or legal advice. And as you know, investing, you invest at your own risk. But we're not here to give you legal advice, not here to give you financial advice, not here to give you tax advice. My job here is to educate you on self-directed IRAs, what they are, how they work, and what you can do with them, the do's and the don'ts. That's what I'm here for. Look at me as your teacher tonight. So, what is a self-directed IRA? Anybody have an idea or want to take a guess? I see you're raising your hand, the little one. You know what it is. Anybody want to take a guess? What's a self-directed IRA? Anybody want to take a guess at what one is? Come on, somebody take a guess.
A retirement account that you control?
Yeah. Yes. One of the things. Anything else? Any other guesses?
Tax shelter.
A what?
Great tax shelter.
A tax shelter. Okay, anything else? All right, I'll tell you what one is. All right? A self-directed IRA, there is no such thing as a self-directed IRA. A self-directed IRA is an industry term that our founder, Dick Desich, came up with in 1974. We used to be called Mid-Ohio Securities, and we started off as a security broker selling stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And Dick came up with the idea of, hey, can I self-direct in my IRA? Because 1974 was the year that 401ks and IRAs came to being. That's when they went through legislation, they were passed. So they haven't been around that long. You're talking, what, 40 something years is all that they've been around for. A lot of people don't know that. And he went to the IRS, and he went to lawyers, and he goes, hey, I've got a bunch of me and my real estate buddies, and we want to buy some property, and we want to do this, and we want to use our IRAs to do it, and I'm reading over all your tax code, and it seems to me I can do that. And the IRS agreed with them. They said, well, right, Dick, you're right, because our rules tell you what you can't do. Our rules don't tell you what you can do. So that's what he did. He came up with that. So basically, a self-directed IRA is no different than what you may already have right now. You may have some type of a retirement fund right now, a 401k plan, a Roth, an IRA. It's really no different. The only difference is, as I believe Forrest said, you're self-directing it. You're telling that IRA what to do. You don't own the things that you invest in. They're called alternative investments. You're investing in alternatives above and beyond stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And two of the biggest investments in this industry happen to be real estate and notes. Billions and billions and billions of dollars are spent every year in self-directed IRA in those things. So we're going to talk about that. So as I mentioned, you can invest in all types. I mean, it's crazy. I'll tell you some crazy stories of what people are actually investing in. There's about 6 things that you can't invest in, according to the IRS. A couple of the things are collectibles, coins, collectibles, rugs, antiques, jewelry, alcoholic beverages. Those are about the only things you cannot buy with your IRA. Other than that, it's a free-for-all. You can pretty much buy anything you want with that IRA and self-directed. And I know a lot of times we'll have a financial advisor in the room, or we'll have a lawyer in the room, and they'll tell us, well, it's against the law to do that. You can't buy that with your IRA, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. That's a disqualified transaction. I says, well, the IRS says you can, and if you go to the IRS.gov webpage and go and look up publication, IRC publication 590, it's telling you exactly what I'm telling you. It's telling you exactly what you can't do, not what you can. And it's right there on their website, and that's basically what Dick Desich, our founder, did. He read the rules in 1974, and he says, hey, Doesn't say I can't buy rental property. Doesn't say I can't buy, any kind of property. Doesn't say I can't buy houses. And that's, and he started doing that, and here we are 40-something years later. So these are the 7 different types that we're going to talk about today. I'm only going to really focus on 4 of them. The first 2 are the individuals, which are the 2 biggest ones. The traditional IRA and the Roth IRA. And then the bottom ones I'm going to spend some time on too, the alternative ones, which are the CISAs and the HSA. The HSA being the health savings account, and the CISA being, it's called a covered education account, there for your children. There are other ones, we do have other ones for small business plans. We don't do a lot of them, but they are available, and if you're interested in something like that, in the SEP or the Simple or the 401k or the Roth Solo, I can send you information on that. But we're really going to focus on those 4 is what we're going to focus on. So, and here's the first 2 we're going to cover are the Roth and the traditional. And there's a big difference between the 2. And I always tell everybody, this is something you may want to write down. If you're going to make an investment on something, there's got to be taxes somewhere along the line. So, how do you want to do that? Do you want to tax the seed, or do you want to tax the crop? Which one do you want to tax? You want to tax the seed. Yeah, tax that seed. It's out of the way. Let that crop all grow now. Tax deferred or tax free. And we're going to show you how you can do that. Now I'll show you an example here. This is an example that I got out of a book, and I'll show you the book after this slide. We took a comparison. We took a regular IRA that somebody had and made some investments versus a non-IRA. Okay? The non-IRA is on the left side, and we took the same principles for both IRAs, okay, or both investments. Both of them started off with $20,000 in them. All right, you had $20,000 in the IRA, and you had $20,000 they invested in whatever they invested in. The investment was over a 20-year time period, and it was the return rate was 12%, so we had to make it fair. So both of them were making 12% on their investment. Okay, the difference being, okay, in the tax advantage one, the one on the right versus the one on the left. The one on the left, okay, their tax return during that time period, they had to pay taxes of 25% on that money that they were making over that 20-year period. Every year they had to pay that. That's what tax bracket that person fell into. So at the end of 20 years, their $20,000 turned into $112,000. But by putting it in the right IRA, and I'm going to show you tonight how to do this, that same $20,000 investment, all right, grew to $192,000. That's a savings of $80,000. Anyone interested in that? Not bad, huh? Not bad. And you can write this down. It's The Power of Zero by David McKnight. Okay? David McKnight talks about what I'm talking about. I don't know David McKnight. I have no idea who he is. I don't sell his book, but we read it, I read it, and there's a lot of really great case studies, and there's a lot of information like what I'm showing you in there. You can go on Amazon. I think it's about $8 is all the book is. I think the guy owes me a ton of royalty now for pitching his book, but it's a good book to read. It's a good investment book to read about zero tax, what I'm going to be talking about tonight. So hey, for $8, $10, go to Amazon, get The Power of Zero by David McKnight. So, the first one we're going to talk about is the traditional IRA, and I'm going to just tell you kind of the rules of how these things work. Okay? On a traditional IRA, and some of you may be familiar with this, there's different ways that you can fund all these things, and we'll get into that a little bit more later tonight, and I can answer questions at the end. But your traditional IRAs, you can fund it many different ways. You can just put money into it. You can fund it through a 401k, a pension, a thrift savings, the TSPs. Whatever you want. You can fund it through a Simple or through a SEP. There's many different ways to fund it. But now you got to understand what the rules are when you're opening these things and when you're doing these things, okay? So, on a traditional IRA, the maximum out-of-pocket that you can put into a traditional IRA or self-direct, let's talk self-directed. A self-directed IRA is if you're under the age of 50, you can put $6,000. If you're over the age of 50, you can put $7,000. you do have to be 18 years or older with earned income. So you've got to be that age, and you've got to make at least $6,000 or $7,000 a year to be able to put money into one of these things. Now, they have what's called a spousal contribution, so you can double this up. So, as long as one of the two of you are working, whether it be the husband or the wife, you can both open your own. So the husband, let's say you're 50 years old, okay? The husband can put in $7,000, the wife can put in $7,000. You've now got $14,000. You both don't have to work. You only need one of the two to work to be able to do that. And a lot of people take advantage of that. They don't know that you can do that. Financial advisors kind of don't tell you can do that, because what's a financial advisor's job? Their job is to lower your taxes, you know, when you file your income tax, so you can get money back. Well, we're going to show you how to make money. We're going to do just the opposite. So, one of the other things about a traditional IRA, two things actually. Once you reach the age of 70 and a half, two things are going to happen at 70 and a half. Number one, you cannot contribute to it any longer. So once you're 70 and a half, you can't put no more money away in it. It is what it is. And number two, you have to start taking what's called minimum required distributions. The IRS says, okay, you're now 70 and a half, you can't put money into it anymore, but you got to start taking money out. And it's a very complicated formula. You can go on the IRS.gov website, and they base it on how long it's been in there for, they base it on your age, and they base it on your life expectancy. I have no idea how they do that, but they have some crazy formula that tells you how much you have to take out starting at 70 and a half. So those are pretty much the basic rules of the traditional IRA. Now, the way the traditional IRAs work, all right, which this is pretty common, all right, here's just to give you a show you how it works. You've got it's tax deferred is what we're doing with the traditional IRA. So what you've got here, you've got your money that you're going to put in there. That money goes into the account. It's tax exempt, okay? You haven't paid taxes on that because you were able to write that off every year on your income tax. So you haven't paid any tax. But when you reach the age of 59 and a half, which is when you can start making withdrawals, now you got to start paying taxes on that. As I mentioned when I first opened up, you got to pay taxes somewhere along the line. So in this one, you're paying taxes once you start making the withdrawals. And there are some rules that you have to follow, okay? If you happen to take any of that money out before you're 59 and a half, you're going to pay your ordinary income taxes, of course, regardless of when you take it out. But prior to 59 and a half, they're going to charge you a 10% early withdrawal penalty because you took it out before 59 and a half. And then after 59 and a half, that goes away. You'll pay your ordinary income tax, whatever bracket that you happen to fall under. This one has an example there. Let's say you built the thing up to $1 million. Your first year up, you know what, I need 100 grand. You know, I'm using that for my retirement to live on. Now you got to pay $20,000 in taxes. You're falling under the 20% tax rate, so you know basically you're going to get 80,000. Now you're paying the taxes on it, and of course the required minimum distribution that I covered. But this is really the one that I want to spend a little bit of time on, the Roth, because this is the big one that the majority of people go with this one. A lot of people have both, but there's a lot of advantages to this one. This is the one that I have, and this is the one that I think is great. It came to being by Senator William Roth. He took this to legislation in 1990, and it took him almost 9 years to pass this IRA, the Roth IRA. He fought and fought and fought basically for us for 9 years. So they came to being finally in 1998. A new one came out, a new IRA came out called a Roth IRA. Now, the maximum out of pocket, it's the same. It's exactly the same as the other one. You're $6,000 for under 50, $7,000 over 50. You still have the spousal thing. So if you're both over 50 years old, you can put $7,000 in, your spouse can put $7,000 in as long as one of the two of you are working. Now there's a couple of big differences here. All right? Number one, there's no age requirement. Anybody can open up a Roth as long as they have earned income. And number two, you can keep putting in that thing. If you live to be 100 years old, you can keep putting money into that thing. There are no required minimum distributions on a Roth. You can keep putting money in them forever and ever and ever, and keep withdrawing them forever and ever and ever, and just and build it up. And it's all tax-free, and we're going to talk about how the Roth works a little more, but I want to tell you a quick story. We believe we had the youngest owner of a Roth IRA when our founder, Dick Dessage's first grandchild was born. Within 4 hours, he had an IRA opened up for his grandchild at 4 hours old. He took a picture of his grandchild, put it up on our website, and he paid him a modeling fee. IRS says you can do it. That's what he did. Paid his grandson a modeling fee, opened him up a Roth a few hours after he was born, and the kid's going to be wealthy when he retires. So there are ways to get, there are really creative ways that you can do a lot of this stuff. So, and it's funny too, because we've got a picture of Mr. Roth. We've got 4 floors in our building. We've got his picture on all 4 of our floors. And right around July, the middle of July is his birthday. He's passed away. It's been a few years. But on his birthday, we get a cake and we celebrate. We actually have a birthday party every year for Mr. Roth for coming up with the Roth IRA, because we feel it's such a great thing. And anybody who's ever had one understands how great they are. Now here's the big, big difference how the Roth works versus the traditional self-directed IRA. All right? You're paying the taxes up front on that thing. So let's say you're a single person, you're under 50, you can contribute $6,000 in there. So you're going to pay, and you fall under the 20% bracket, so you're going to pay $1,200. You're going to put your $6,000 in there, you're going to pay your $1,200, get that tax out of the way, right? Tax a seed. Now guess what? If that thing grows to $10 million, guess what? You don't owe another nickel. You don't owe another penny on that thing. So that's what we're talking about. Compounding interest and 0% taxation. And I'm going to share some stories about what some people did here. So you're paying the taxes up front. Then when you start your distribution, same thing with the distribution, 59.5. All right, but it's tax free. Now a lot of people will say to me, well, Dean, I'm pretty savvy about Roth, and there are some rules and regulations with a Roth versus a traditional IRA. And I go, yeah, there is. And one of those things are, if you make too much money, they say that you can't invest in a Roth. And that's kind of true and kind of not true, okay? And here's how that works, okay? It's called a MAGI, okay? Modified Adjusted Gross Income. All right, for a single person, as you can see on the first line, all right, a single person, the most that they can put in there, if you make over $118,000, all right, they can put the maximum contribution up to $118,000. If they make over $118,000 up to $133,000, they can only put a partial. And then there's a rule that the IRS has that if they make over $133,000, you can't put anything in a Roth because you make too much money. Same for a married couple. If you make over $186,000 for a married couple jointly, you can put the full amount in. If you go over that, between 186 and 196, you can put a partial. But if you make 196 and $1, you can't do it. But there's a way to do it. Again, we figured this out. It's called, and I don't know if anybody's ever heard of this, it's called a backdoor Roth. And we'll talk a little bit, I'll show you how some people did this. What you can do, you can take something that you already had over here. You can take your, say you had a traditional IRA with somebody, say you had a 401k plan or a pension plan, or you have something like that, all right, and you're making 200 grand a year or whatever. You can convert that thing over, you can roll it and convert it over into a Roth IRA, pay all the taxes on that, and get it in there, and now you're starting. So there is a way around that law that they say that you make too much money. It's called a backdoor. and it's perfectly legal, IRS says, yep, you can do that. Again, there's just things like this that a lot of people don't know, and that's what we're here. We're here to educate you, to show you what the rules and regulations are, and help you out so you can do these things. And then we're going to tell you the rights and the wrongs also. We're going to tell you what you can and also what you can't do. So basically, here's the way a Roth conversion is going to work. Let's say you had $100,000 in a retirement plan over here, you know, at an old company you work for or whatever. Okay? You made too much money. Or even if you didn't make too much money, you know, let's just say you had $100 grand, but you say, you know, Dean, I can only put $7,000 in there because that's what you said I can only do. That's true. But if you do it this way, if you do a conversion, you take that traditional IRA, you take the $100,000, you put that $100,000 into a Roth IRA, and you pay the taxes on that $100,000. Again, let's say you fall into the 20% tax bracket, you pay that $20,000. Now, a lot of people can't do this because they say, well, I don't have 20 grand laying around. And the only reason that we illustrate this, you can do it, you can do the 100 and put, you know, take 20 out of it, pay the 20 and only put 80 in there. But the idea here is what? To get as much into the Roth as you can. So if you can afford to pay the taxes, get it out of the way. Pay the 20 grand. Let's say you don't have the 20 grand, but maybe over a period of time, you do have the 20 grand. You know, every 5 months or every quarter I get 5 grand for whatever you get it for, a bonus, and you know I would be able to pay it then. Great, great. We'll do it this way. We'll do partial conversions. The IRS says, okay, you can do partial conversions. You can do as many of them as you want. There's no limit. So instead, we'll do it this way. Okay, I got 100 grand over here, but you know what? I don't have 20 grand to pay it. I've got 10 grand though. Great. Let's transfer 50,000 over into the Roth. Pay the 10,000. Now when you get another 5 or 10,000, you know, just continue to roll it over. Within that 1 year time frame of when you opened it up, you can roll it. You can do that as many times as you want. But then after that year, you're done with it. So a lot of people will do it in stages. Okay, and that's what we're illustrating here. Okay, well I can only put 50 in because I have 10 grand to pay, but I want to get that 50 grand in there, and then I'll get that other 50 grand in there 6 months down the line because I'll have another 10 grand coming in from whatever. And that's how people do it. You do it in stages. You're allowed to do that. Again, some things that a lot of people don't know. One of the other alternative plans I want to talk about, and these are really great plans. I have one for myself, are the HSAs. They're the health savings account. Now, a lot of people confuse these with the flexible spending accounts. They're completely different, okay? The flexible spending account, those are the use it or lose it. If you don't use the money that's in there, you lose it. You lose that money. In HSAs, there are a couple rules. You don't lose it. It keeps growing and growing and growing, okay? But it has to be, you have to have a high deductible health plan, which I happen to have. In order to qualify for one of these HSAs, you got to have a high deductible plan. And this has what's called a triple tax advantage. This is the only account out there that there's 3 ways that you save on taxes with this. You open the thing up, well here's your contributions, let's go over that first. If you're under the age of 55, you can put $3,500 in or $4,500 in, depending if you're singles or married. Or if you're over 55, you can put $7,000 or $8,000 in, depending again on your age. Now, the way this works, the HSA account, all right, you put that money in, you get that tax write-off. You're getting that tax write-off at the end of the year, okay? So let's say you put in your $7,000, so you'll get $7,000 when you file your income tax in February, March, April, whenever you do it. You'll get that $7,000 taken right off your ordinary income tax. So boom, right there. Deferred tax, you're saving right there because you've got that write-off, okay? Second way you're going to save in this thing, all right? The HSA is obviously used for health savings account, okay? You can only use these for medical expenses. So as long as you're using them for medical expenses, guess what? There's your second tax. You don't pay taxes on it. And that's the whole reason to have an HSA. All right, you're getting your write-off when you file your income tax, number one. And as you start to use it for your medical expenses, All right? You're not paying taxes on that withdrawal like you do on a traditional IRA. And then here's the third one. When you reach the age of 65, now you can use it for anything. It doesn't have to be used for just medical because you've hit 65 and going to go on Medicaid. So now there's your third advantage. I can use it for medical, or I can use it for whatever I want when you hit 65. So you got 3 advantages with the HSA account. Now the limits are a little low compared to the others, but still, they're great to have. You know, they're great to have.
What's the interest on
What's the what?
it? Interest? Is there any interest on it?
Interest?
Like, will it grow over time with interest?
Well, that's up to you. I'm going to share stories of how people make it grow. Yeah, we'll get to that in some of my other slides. These aren't like stocks, bonds, and mutual funds where you put money into. If you put money into these things, they're going to sit there. You'll actually lose money if you don't do anything with them because you're going to pay an annual fee for having an account, and the money's sitting there not doing nothing because it's not a stock, bond, or mutual fund, so it's not gaining any interest. But we're going to show you how to make money on it. We're going to talk about that here. I want to cover this last account. This is one that I just recently opened for my grandson. It's a Coverdale education account. These are really good too if you have children or even if you have grandchildren like me. I wish I would have invested I wish I would have done this when my kids were younger 30 years ago. Opened one of these things up. I don't even know if they were around back then. I'm not even sure. They do have a lower limit. $2,000 is what you can invest in a Coverdale education account. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's to be used for education. A lot of people think it's only used for college. No, you can use it K through graduate school. You can use it. You can use it for anything that has to do with education, tuition, books, computer. Anything that has to be used for education, pencils. Whatever. Anything that's got to do with education from K all the way to graduate school. You can use the Coverdale account for. Again, there are MAGI limits. If you make too much money, you can't invest in one of these. We don't go into these in great detail. I think I think it's 203,000 this year. If you make over 203,000, you can invest in one of these, and there's no way around that, unfortunately. But the reason we don't talk a lot about it because the limit is so low. It's only $2,000. But again, I'm going to show you how one gentleman grew this with his kids, how he grew his CSAS accounts. And the other nice thing about the Coverdale education account, all right, it grows tax-free, and as you take that money out of there to use it for those expenses for education, all right, you're not paying income tax on it as long as you're using it for that. Now there is one, it is and it isn't a drawback, okay? Let's say your kid graduates and you still got money left in that thing. You built the thing up to 20 grand and there's 10 grand left in there. Okay, the nice thing about the CSAs, it can continue to grow and you can transfer it. Number one, they can keep that account until they're 30 years old, but at 30 years old, they have to start making distributions just like the regular IRA I talked about. They've got to start taking that money out at 30. But what people do with these things, you can transfer them to another child, or you can transfer them to a grandchild. So what a lot of people are doing, they'll open it up for their kids, and let's say there's money left in there, and their kid, or maybe their kid gets a free ride at college, gets a scholarship for something. Oh my God, I got 50 grand in this account. What am I going to do? Give it to another kid, save it for the grandkid. You've got till your kid's 30 years old to figure out what to do with this thing. So, and then, at that point, you transfer it down to another child, or you transfer it down to a grandchild. So you can do that with this account. So those are the 4 major ones that I wanted to talk about. And I mentioned something called a disqualified person. And again, a lot of people will say, well, Dean, I've heard that there's certain things that you can't do with an IRA. You can't partner with yourself. You can't partner with other people. You can't do all these things because that's what I've heard. That's what my lawyer told me. That's what my financial advisor told me. No, that's absolutely 100% incorrect. You can partner these things any way you want to partner these things. And I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's all the different ways of who you can partner these things with. And I'm going to show you here, I'm going to start getting into my case studies of how people have partnered either with other people or with their IRA and money, or loans, or whoever, you know, with their kids. I think I've got one in here. One gentleman did it with his kids. I'm going to start talking about it, starting with this one, Gary and Jan, and their daughter there, Brittany. I had the pleasure of meeting them several months ago. They're from St. Louis, Missouri, and Jan is a very experienced real estate person. She's been in real estate for probably about 40 years now, and she does A-class houses, real high-end houses. Well, they had a nice stash put away up until about 2008, and if any of you had any investments and you were around in 2008, we all know what happened in 2008. You know, she lost just about everything that they had. She lost a lot of money, a lot of money. Well, she had heard about equity trust. She had come to a meeting like this, and she's like, you know what, I've got to take control of my financial future. I can't let that happen to me again, because they were just investing in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds just like the whole rest of the world was doing. And there's nothing wrong with that, but again, it's an investment. With investment, there's risks. And we all know what happened in 2008. You know, the stock market tumbled, and anybody who had any kind of retirement savings, you know, most people either lost them all or pretty much lost most of them. And that was their case. They lost most of theirs. They had about $90,000 left. That's all they had. So Jan called us up and said, hey, I'd like to come to, you guys have these things called wealth building workshops. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the end of that here. And I passed a flyer out because we've got one coming up here in a couple of months up in Charlotte. But we do a wealth building workshop where Jan has spoken at our wealth building workshops, where it's an all-day course that we do. It's 8 hours long. We talk more in depth. We take a really detailed, in-depth view of what I talk about now. You know, I'm just giving you the basics, but we really go deep dive into it. But we have clients there. We have live clients that come in or fly in or drive in at these workshops, and they get up there and they tell you their story. And Jan came to St. Louis a few months ago and told us our story. But what she did, and I'm going to show you what she did and how she did it, all right? They ended up opening that account with us. She put that $90,000 into Roth IRA. She opened up a Roth for Gary, a Roth for her, and a Roth for Brittany, okay? And within 6 years, and this is an older slide, they're at over $2 million today is what they've got from 2008. So you're talking a little over 10 years, they went from $90,000 to $2 million between the three of them. Between the three of them. And guess what? That $2 million is tax-free. They won't pay a nickel on that. Anyone interested in doing that? There we go. We've got a couple hands going up. I'm gonna tell you what they did. She ended up getting this property right here called 55 Ladue Estates. And when you do these deals, when you partner, you can't partner in this. Okay, it's called undivided interest. Okay, the way these things work. All right, Gary's Roth had to put 55% of the purchase price, and I'm going to show you the purchase price and the sale price and the repairs and all that stuff. Brittany's had to put 3% of the cost of the purchase price, and I can't see Jan's. I think it's 42. Jan had to put 42% in. Now, the way the IRAs work, all right. Remember, you have to stay hands. You know, you got to stay hands away. A couple different things. You can't swing the You cannot swing the hammer. You cannot do the sweat equity. So when you buy these properties, okay, you cannot do the work. All right, that's called a transaction that the IRS frowns upon, and they can force you to take all your money out of your IRA account. So you got to pay somebody to do that. That's one of the things when you're doing self-directed. Okay, see, you don't own it. Your IRA owns that property, and because your IRA owns that property, your IRA has to do everything. Your IRA bought it. Your IRA has to pay whoever's doing the work on it. You can't do it, but guess what? All the money you make goes to your IRA. So that's how that works. And I'm going to outline this and show you exactly with all the numbers, exactly what they did, how they invested, and how much money they made in that. So the property was about $306,000 is how much this property cost, okay? And there's the breakdown, okay? Jan's Roth had to put in 42%, Gary's Roth 55, and Brittany's 3%. So here's how it's broken down. The EMD, that's the earnest money down. They had to put $3,000 earnest money down on this. So those numbers are the $1,650 is 55% of $3,000. Jan's 1260 is 42% of the earnest money, $3,000, and Brittany's $90 is 3% of the $3,000 earnest money down, and then the balance that they each had to put in, 168, 125, and 92. But if you add all those up, all right, it's going to come to $306,737. That's how they had to purchase it. That way right there, okay? It cost them almost $300,000 to repair this thing. All right, so this by far, by no means you can see, this was not their first deal. This was several deals after they started accumulating wealth in their IRA. But this is just to show you what you can accomplish. And I'll have some lower end ones to show you how to build up to here. But again, like I said, you can't do the sweat equity or you can't swing the hammer. So those renovation costs, guess what? They got to come out of the IRA. So 55% had to come out of Gary's, 42% out of Jan's, and 3% out of Brittany's. But here's the nice thing about it. We have a thing called My Equity, and I'm going to show you here, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. All this can be done online. It's an online portal. And I'm sure the majority of you, if not all of you, have some type of online banking of some sort. You pay your credit card online, you do all your bill. I know me, I haven't written a check, and I don't even know I could write a check. It's been years since I wrote a check. I do all of my transactions online. That's what we do at Equity Trust. We have a portal. You can do all your transactions online. And that's what Jan did. And she's very particular. Instead of paying that $300,000 all up front, okay, she worked out with her contractor that was doing the repair. She said, hey, look, I want to see after you do so much, I'm going to split it up into 5 payments. Is that okay? He agreed, because she's like, I want to see, if I'm going to pay you, whatever, a fifth of $300,000. If I'm going to pay you, 70 grand or 60 grand 5 times, I want to make sure after my first 60 grand I'm happy, and that's what she did. And she basically just wired them, wired them the money out of her account. And she did it 5 times out of each one of those accounts. Because remember, that money's got to come out of each one of those accounts. It's got to come out the same percentage that they bought it for, the 55, 42, and the 3. And they did it. It's our online portal, and I'll go over a little bit more of this at the end. But she basically went in there, put all the information in there, who the contractor was, when to send the payments, how much the payments were, and sent them off to them 5 times over a period of time. Here's a couple of before and after pictures that I just wanted to share. As I mentioned, she's an A-class lister. Her properties are way up there, but she also does what she calls an up and down. So when she does a remodel of a home, when she buys it, okay, not only does she do the top floor, but she also does, if there's a basement involved in it, and she looks for ones with basements that are either wrecked or unfinished, she makes it a livable space. The basement. So the entire, there's the basement. So the entire house.
What's a basement? Sorry.
You walk down these steps. So basically she puts more rooms down there. Down on the bottom floor, which is underground, which in some places because of water, you can't do that unfortunately. But she makes it livable. There's a kitchen, there's a bath, there's a bar, there's a living room, there's everything in there. And guess what? She gets the biggest buck for her property. So, what did she get for her property? Well, here you go. She ended up selling that property for $767,000. All right, remember what she paid? She paid $306, and I think $296 is what she ended up with the renovations. So after all expenses that were paid, they made $163,000 on this property that she bought. But look what that $163,000, look what it did. $90,000 of that went into Gary's Roth, tax-free. $67,000 went into Jan's Roth, tax-free. Almost $5,000 went into Brittany's Roth, tax-free. They won't pay another nickel on that. Now I'll tell you the story here about Brittany. She's now 18 years old and started college. When they did this deal, this was, I want to say this was about 4 years ago, and they started her off with a small amount. She now has she's 18 years old, she now has over $100,000 in her Roth IRA, all right? And she's learned from seeing what her parents did. You know, when she first saw it at 14 or 15, you know, she wanted to take that money out and go spend it just like any teenage girl would want to do, right? But she was smart enough to understand her parents taught her what they were doing and why they were doing it. By the time she's 59 and a half, like Jan likes to say, she's going to have oodles of millions of dollars. She will. She'll have oodles of millions of dollars to live on or do whatever she wants, all tax-free, because her parents opened this and taught her the value of it and taught her how to do this, and she understands, okay, I can't touch it for the next 40 years, but in 40 years, you know, I'm going to be living a pretty good life when I'm 59 and a half. And that's what they did. Here's another gentleman. This is Stan. He's a local guy from Cleveland. Stan came to us several years ago. Same type of thing. Stan didn't have a whole lot of money. He had lost a lot of money. Same thing back in about 2008. He came to one of our seminars like this. He went to one of our wealth building workshops. And I mean, he went to the extreme, as you can see what Stan did. Stan opened up everything in the world. And you can open up as many of these things as you want. And that's exactly what he did. All right? Stan went and he opened up a traditional IRA for himself and for his wife. He opened up a Roth for himself, for his wife. He opened up, he had 2 kids, so he opened up, I believe, 2 CISAs for each kid, 2 HSAs for each kid, and 2 Roths for each kid. And then he talked his in-laws into opening up a Roth. And what he does, they open those all up with a small amount of money. He now partners all of those in deals, sort of like Jan and Gary did with their daughter. So he's partnering all these people, and he came in with, you know, well under $100,000, you know, between all of these people. They each put $5 grand or whatever it was when they did it. But he's got, I don't know, there's like $1.3 million in there right now, something like that. It's well over $1 million. And he partners them depending on what he wants to do, you know. He's got, you know, nice money for him and his wife, but as you can see, he's trying to build up the kids' CISAs. One's got 9, the other one's got 11. And then the Roths, one's got 32, the other one's got 13. So he's basically doing what Jan and Gary did too with his kids. But he went to the extreme, you know, they each opened up 1 account. He opened up, I think, 11. That's what he did. But hey, you know what? If you can do it, right? That's what he did. So everybody here is sharing the wealth in his interest. Everybody's sharing the wealth. So here's a great story that I want to share. I didn't meet Mark, but I've talked to Mark. He was our Investor of the Year last year. Mark's, you know, just up the road from us here in North Carolina. Mark was, he was retired. And he had worked, he was an insurance salesman for like 30 years. And Mark had some money in a retirement account, and he didn't know anything about real estate. He really didn't know anything about anything. Mark didn't, okay? But again, he came to one of our seminars, came to one of our wealth building workshops, and he goes, you know, I want to be able to control my financial future. I have a little bit of money, but, you know, I like what I'm hearing, but I don't know what I'm doing. You know, I don't know how to buy a house. I don't know anything about real estate. I don't know anything about remodeling. I don't know anything about anything. Okay? Well, Mark ended up, his first 2 investments that he made in 2017, and they both took him about 1 year and 3 months, and I'll show you and explain why. Number one, he was, you know, inexperienced, so he took his time, you know, doing these investments. He made a 41% return on his first 2 investments that he ever made in his life. And this guy knew nothing about real estate, absolutely nothing. He did real estate and he did a note. He did both is what he did, all right? And he's now got 3 more investments, and I think the other 3 just closed the first quarter of this year. He didn't tell me how much money he made, but I know he made a lot of money. The other 3 just closed, and those went on about 1 year. But here's his first investment. It was a house rehab, okay? And Mark bought it for, I think it's $89,000. It was $64,000 for the rehab. He ended up selling it for $200,000. he put $45,000 back into his Roth. This is his first investment that he ever made. Remember, I said he had that retirement money, he put it into the Roth. He made 45 grand on something he had no idea what he was doing, but here's what he did. This is why it took so long. August of 2017, he puts the money in the account. He says, okay, I need some help, okay? I know what I want to do. I want to buy a house, I want to rehab it, and I want to make money because I hear all these other people doing it, but I need some guidance, I need some help. Well, fortunately, one of his neighbors was a real estate agent, and she was pretty experienced, and she's, she knows about self-directed IRAs, and she kind of helped Mark. Mark said, hey, I'm looking for this house, can you help me? I want to buy this house, I think I found one, can you come out and look at it, number one? Is it a good deal if I buy it, number one? Number two, I don't know how much it's going to cost to repair it. I've never done this in my life, How much is it going to cost? And then, what can I sell it for after I buy it? And she kind of guided him. That's why it took him so long. He bought the house, he sat on it for several months, not doing anything, and one of the reasons was he didn't have a contractor. So he had to start going to some meetings like this, and he started to have it to network until he found a contractor that he could trust and was going to get to the price where his real estate agent told him that he needed to be. And that's what he did. He basically did his homework. He basically did his homework. That's all he did. He had somebody help him. Hey, is this a good deal? How much can I sell it for? If I put this much in it, what do you think? Can you help me? She helped him. Guy makes 45 grand back into it. Here's a before and after. He did some work on the outside of it, but it was pretty funny because he was telling us the inside of it was pretty bad. Here's a picture of it on the left. He goes, when I first walked into the house, he goes, it was 1970s. It still had Formica, and it still had wallpaper, and it still had all that. And he goes, it was like walking back in the time tunnel. He goes, I knew I needed to update it if I was going to get the money that I wanted to get for it, but he just didn't know how to do it. And that's where the real estate person helped him. He ended up finding a good, reliable contractor through some friends, and that'll go on to the next story, those friends and those contractors. And the guy made 45 grand not knowing anything, knowing absolutely nothing about this industry. His second one, what he did, those same friends that got him the contractor, they came to Mark and they said, hey Mark, we're buying this property, we're putting up this property here, but we don't have enough money. We need some more money to put this property, to get this deal, to buy the property, to build these homes, and we'll pay you. Can you help us out? Can you loan us the money? So he did. In this case, he did an unsecured promissory note. We always tell you get a secured promissory note to protect yourself. The reason Mark did it unsecured was because he knew the people, they were his friends, so he trusted them, he knew he was going to get his money back. So what Mark did, I think it was, he gave him a $125,000 loan, and it took him a year and 3 months, bought the land, built the homes, sold it. They sold the money, and Mark got $199,000 was his share back that he got for giving them 125 grand. So think about that. He gave him $125,000, and let's round it off. He got $200,000 back. That's like, what is that, 60, 70% return? Where are you going to get that kind of return? Right? Where are you going to get that kind of return? Back into his IRA is what he did. Yeah, and he basically sat on these two things for a year and 3 months. And now, like I said, he did 3 more, and now he's a pro. After doing his first 2, he's a pro at this thing. And this was from a guy who really knew absolutely nothing. He retired, but didn't have a lot of his retirement because, like a lot of people, he had lost it, earlier in life. And he wanted to, take control, and he took control. And now when you talk to the guy, you think the guy's been doing this for 30 years, and he's been doing it for 2. So it can be done. It can be done. Here's another gentleman that partnered a different way. I'm sharing all these ways that you can partner and these things that you can do. Gary didn't have enough money in his Roth account to start with. He has since built it up pretty big now. I've got 2 success stories for Gary. But 2 things Gary wanted. Number one, he wanted to build his Roth up. He only had X amount of dollars in his Roth. but he wanted some immediate cash flow, is what he wanted. He wanted to get some cash flow going because he wanted some cash just to have some monthly income, coming into himself, okay? So what he did, he partnered his Roth IRA with some cash that he had, all right? So this property that he ended up buying, all right, his total investment was $71,500. Of that $71,500, all right, he did a 75-25 undivided interest split. So 75% of that $31,000, all right, was the Roth purchase. Because that, like I said, he only had about 80 grand in his Roth, so he had to take 31 out of the Roth. He had to take another 30, all right, to do the repairs. 75% of that 30, so it's 22.5. So 22.5, so 22, so about $54,000 he used out of his Roth. But he put the other part of it was cash. He put $10,325 in cash, and then $22.50 in repairs was cash. Because this number also has to be the 75-25. Okay. So 75% of that cash has to go to the Roth, or 75% of that number's got to go to the Roth, and 25% has to go to the cash. All right. But now, here's the thing about it when you do something like this. And and the titling is a little different than probably what you're used to. As you can see in the bottom, there's a special way to title these things that the IRS says it's got to be done this way. So the way you title it, it's called Equity Trust Company Custodian, FOB, which means for benefit of Gary, okay, and you can either put your account number or you can put your name. Obviously we don't want to give him his name. You put your name or your account number and how you split it up. So he did the 75% through his Roth, he did the 25% through the cash. Now, he ended up selling it. Now I'm going to show you how this thing has to, it's got to all go back, and I'm going to show you how this works. And he did have to pay some taxes here, and I'll explain that. He sold it for $116,000. I think there was about $10,000 in closing costs. Yeah, there was $10,000 in closing costs. So basically $106,000 is what he made, okay? So there's how much money that went back into his two things. The top number, $25,875 went back into his Roth. That's 75% of the profit. Tax-free. He will never pay another nickel on that let's call it 26. He'll never pay another nickel on that $26,000. $8,600 is what cash he got. He got cash in hand at $8,600. Now, in an instance like this, all right, he does have to pay the tax on the $8,600. It's called UBIT tax, okay, unrelated business income tax. He's got to pay that 20%, so he ended up paying, $1,600 or whatever. But the point is, he said, hey, $1,600, I still netted myself $7,000 in cash. I'll pay $1,600 to get $7,000 in my pocket and $26,000 into my Roth at a pretty nice high percentage rate return, So he paid that little bit of tax on the profit, but he wanted the cash. I'll pay $1,600 to get $7,000, won't you? I'll do it every day of the week. And the 26 goes back into his Roth tax-free. There he is. Like everybody else, he's building that Roth up. Now you can see I'm showing you a lot of Roths because this is what people are doing. This is how they're making some wealth. Now this is a second deal that Gary did once he had enough money to do everything in his Roth. All right? He ended up buying this property for $68,000. He put about $20,000 in repairs to this thing. So he spent about $88,000 on this property. Now he had enough in his Roth to do this, and that's what he did. Okay? He took that all out of his Roth to pay for it. Then he's like, well, you know what? I might hang on to this thing and just create, I don't need the money right now, I'm going to create monthly income going back into my Roth. That's what he did. He ended up fixing it up. He rents it out right now. He rents it out for $900 per unit. So $1,800 gross every month is what he's grossing off of that thing. But he's netting about $1,400 bucks, he told me. So every month that money is going back in to his Roth. Every single money. The after repair value of that home right now is 135 to 145. So he's got the best of both worlds, two things. Number one, he's got that 1,800 bucks coming into his account every month, you know, and he's paying his $400 of, you know, expenses, but he's netting 14. If he hangs on to this thing, you know, for, you know, 8 years or whatever, it's basically paid off. That 135 to 145 will probably go up to 170 or 180. He's got all that money that he started with, and then he turns around and sells it, you know, or he can sell it right now for 135 to 145, and he only invested 88. But he's like, man, I don't know what I want to do. He goes, no matter what I do, I'm going to make a lot of money, so he's just kind of sitting on it, is what he's doing right now, because he can afford to do that. He's built his Roth up, doesn't need the money anymore, doesn't need it. So this is what people will do. And I've got another story I'm going to share with you. Somebody who's living, this is how they live. They live, you know, they live every year by what Gary's doing. They're creating their own income without paying income taxes. It's right here. It's Kevin and Cynthia, another couple from St. Louis. They did the same thing that Gary did. They came to us about 10 years ago or so, 2010. And they had less than 100,000, so you don't have to have a lot of money. They had it in their retirement plan, same type of deal. One of these people had all kind of money. They lost all their money in, you know, 2008. What he ended up doing, he ended up rolling over his old 401k plan into a Roth. Him and his wife, they both rolled those over. All right, and then what they did what Gary did. They started buying rental properties 9 years ago. Is what they did. Okay. Gary is now, he just turned 60 the end of last year, all right? But what he's done, he's held on to those like what the previous gentleman was thinking, like Gary. Gary doesn't know if he wants to hold on to it or sell it. Well, he held on to these because Kevin and Cynthia have a long-range plan, all right? He held on to this, but what they did every year, they kept adding a couple more, adding a couple more, adding a couple more, paying them off, because they kept building up that wealth in the Roth. And now what he did this year, what Gary did, him and his wife, all right, because he's over 59 and a half, he withdraws $110,000 in January. He withdraws that $110,000 out of his Roth IRA. Him and his wife are retired and don't work, and he doesn't file income tax return. They're living on 110 grand. But he's just repeating the process over and over and over because he held on to these. And I'm like, well, are you ever going to sell them? He goes, no. He goes, these are going to be transitioned to my children. He's going to give them to his kids. Yeah.
I have a quick question. So, who is the owner of these homes? Is it the IRA then?
Yep. Mm-hmm. The IRAs own the properties, own the notes. Yep.
But you,
not you.
But you have to still pay the taxes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything, the IRA owns it. It's no different than what you're doing now, but everything's got to come out of the IRA. You know, instead of you paying it, your IRA's paying it. And then all the profits, you know, what you make now, you know, you buy a house, you're paying your capital gains, you're paying your ordinary income tax. Doing it this way, all that money you're making because it's going into the Roth, you're not doing that. There is no capital gains. You're not paying, you know, ordinary income tax, not providing you're over 59 and a half. The whole purpose behind this is for retirement. That's what the government came out with these IRAs for in '74. Dick Dessage just figured out a way how to make a whole lot more money than stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. You know, the IRS said, you know, yeah, you can do it. You know, we said you can't do it. You know, there's no reason that you can't. You know, you can do whatever you want. I'll tell you a great story I was in. This guy told me, I had to laugh. You know, when we talk about all these investments, the majority of what we do at Equity Trusts, you know, 95% are either promissory notes, or rental, or real estate. All right, and we do, you know, over $1 billion a year in each one of those things. We hold over $30 billion in assets at Equity Trust. We're the largest in the country at what we do. We're the biggest and the largest. But I was in southern Kentucky a couple months ago, and this one gentleman If you've ever been to Kentucky, it's obviously the horse capital of the world. Well, this guy was a big horse guy, and he had bought some horses through his IRA. He bought one horse in particular with his Roth IRA. This horse ran in the Kentucky Derby about 3 or 4 years ago. It didn't win, okay? It didn't win, but, how many people can say that they have a horse that ran the Kentucky Derby? But you want to hear the funny story? You know what he did? People found out that that horse ran in the Kentucky Derby. His Roth IRA owns it. He now gets stud fees. He gets stud fees. Every time that horse goes out and does its thing, he gets a stud fee and it goes back into his Roth, tax-free. It's like, is that a great story or what? He told me, I go, seriously? He goes, oh yeah. I'm like, wow. So just imagine the things that you can do. Like I said, we happen to do majority of its real estate and that, but there's people out there, doing other things. There was this one guy, and I don't want to share the story because I don't know the story that well, but he went out and bought vending machines is what he did. And within a 5 or 6 year period, he makes enough money now off those vending machines that, he doesn't have to work. He started like with one, his IRA bought it, put it out, all the money goes back into his Roth. Bought another one, and he's got several of them now all over the place. And he's got to pay somebody to go out and maintain them and that, but basically it's free income for him. He bought, these machines, vending machines, through his IRA. So, it doesn't have to be real estate. The reason we talk to a lot of people that are into real estate and apartments and that, because we tell people, invest in what you know. This guy knew horses. This guy knew vending stuff. You know real estate. So you got the hard part out of the way. You already know the real estate. You know how to buy it. You know how to sell it. You know how to market it. You know how to do that stuff. We're just showing you what to do with the money. That's all we're showing you to do. That's the easy part. You guys got the hard part done. Knowing the real estate part of the business. Now, if you're interested, and I'm not here to sell you anything, but a lot of our people will say, well, it's pretty easy to set up an account. How does that work? Yeah, it's really 1, 2, 3. It's 3 easy, really steps. It's really simple to set up an account if you're interested. Step number 1, you open an account. It's pretty simple. You either put the cash in there, you roll something over, you transfer something, somehow, some way you put the money into the account. You open up an account. You figure out, I want to open up a traditional IRA, Dean. I want to open up a Roth, whatever. You open up the account. But let me stop you right there, because I've seen this happen a million times, especially with real estate people. Dean, I got a deal, and it's going to close, tomorrow or the next day. Do this first. Open the account, because we've had that happen where people will come to us and they've got a deal ready to go. Well, number 1, we can't open an account, magically, like right now in front of us, especially if it involves rolling something over, rolling a 401k or a pension plan or something over. The reason being, those things don't happen overnight, and we can't do anything until it's funded, all right? And legally, if you've got money in another IRA, a 401k, or you got money sitting out there in some investment somewhere with, Charles Schwab or whatever it may be, or an old 401k from a company you used to work for, or whatever, money sitting there from a pension, to get that released is not the problem. It's how long it takes. By law, they have 6 weeks to get that money to us. And so people say, why can't you do anything? Well, I can't do anything until I have any money. So don't open the account, then go and look for the deal. Don't do it the other way. Oh, Dean, I found the deal, now I want to do it. Well, I can't do anything until we get the money into the account. So fund the account. Get that thing open, because if you are going to do something, and it's amazing how many people that I talk to, especially in my age group, that I ask them, do you have a retirement, do you have a 401k? Yeah, I got an old 401k from a company, that I used to work with years ago, or I quit 2, 3 years ago. I just asked a buddy of mine, he worked for a bank for 30 years, and unfortunately they let him go, and I was talking to him, I don't know, 6, 8 months ago, after he lost his job, and I says, Tony, what are you going to do with that money? Oh, it's just sitting there. I don't know, just going to sit there. And there are so many people that I talk to that have a retirement of some sort or an old 401k. They left their job, went to another job and just left it there and didn't do anything with it. What are you going to do with it? I don't know. Well, what's it doing? It's sitting there. It's sitting there. Well, let's do something with it. You know, so let's do something with it. So, step number 2, all right, you fund the account, all right? You figure out what kind of account that you want. I want a Roth. Okay, great. How are we going to fund it? I'm going to give you $7,000 cash. Great. There's step 1, there's step 2. You're done. Step 3, what do you want to do? What's your investment? You know, you got a deal you want to do, you got a real estate, you got property, you got rental, you want to do a note, what do you want to do? That's it. It's pretty simple, you know. And the application can all be done online. You know, if you want to, you know, you can go right online, open it up, you can call us on the phone. I gave you all the information that you need. You can call us up, or if you're serious, and I don't pass these out because again, I'm not here to sell accounts, but I made the mistake one time of not bringing these with me, and some lady wanted to open up an account, and I didn't have an application with me. But I have an application, so you know, if you're serious about wanting to open up an account, let me know. I'll give you one of these applications, but I didn't pass them out. But if you want to, you know, let me know. Be happy to give you the application, take it back, and have our people call you. And then getting back to your investment. Here's just some of the many investments that you can do, and these are all kind of focused on real estate, so if you want to kind of take a snapshot, I've got a couple pages here of different ones. You know it's really hot lately? Man, I can't believe how many people in the last several months I've talked to. Mobile homes. It's huge. It's huge.
That's what we do down here.
It's huge.
No cap.
I'm telling you, I'm talking to people that are making a lot of money putting into their Roth. I'm like, really? I got to get into that. Yeah, it amazes me. Yes.
Can you do crowdfunding with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely you can. Yeah, I don't touch on that because a lot of people don't know what that is, but yes, you can do crowdfunding. Yeah, and for more information, we can get you more information on that if you want to, but absolutely you can do crowdfunding. Here's just some other things too, another page of the different things. Retail buildings. Buildings are a hot one. A lot of people are doing, you know, retail shops and buildings and things like that. Rentals, hotels, motels, RV parks, you know, land contracts, condominiums, whatever. Wealth of things, assisted living. I mean, you know, and again, this is just focused on the real estate. You heard a couple stories, the guy with the vending stuff and the guy with the horse, you know. So I'm trying to think of something, what could I invest in that nobody else does, you know, something like that. I don't know anything about horses or vending, but, you know, like I say, invest in what you know. You know property, you know real estate. Invest in that, you know. And that's really the 3 easy steps. You open your account, number 1, you fund your account, or you make an investment. So just a real quick, we're going to wrap up here a little bit in just a couple of minutes, and then I'll open it up for questions. But why equity? This is just a little bit about us. I explained a little bit about the beginning. We're in Westlake, Ohio, which is a suburb of Cleveland. We're about 20 miles to the west of Cleveland, right on great old Lake Erie. We've been there for over 40 years. We started off as Mid-Ohio Securities, just as a regular brokerage firm. We still have equity brokerage under our umbrella. We've got 5 different companies. So we do have people that come to us and say, you know, I do want to do this self-directed stuff, but I'm not sure what I want to do and I don't know about real estate. Well, you know what? Then transfer your IRA into one of our brokerage ones and let it sit there with the same investments that you had, you know, with your traditional stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, and then at least you have the account with us. Then it's all we got to do. Once you figure something out, since we've got it, we just roll it over the next day. You know, we're not going to take 6 weeks. We already have it. We roll it over into a self-directed one. That's all. But, you know, we're an IRS-approved custodian. You know, we're not the only ones on the block that do this, by no means, you know. But you just want to be careful with who you're working with. You know, there are about 30, you know, reputable companies like us out there. There's a lot of small ones that we don't even know who they are. We're the biggest. We're probably 3 times the size of the second biggest. and have a lot more clients, and that's only because we've been around the longest. To our knowledge, Dick Desich started this industry in 1974, you know, just kind of by accident, saying, I'm going to do this self-directed stuff, you know. So to our knowledge, he was the very first one to do it. We've got clients in all 50 states. Again, I explained this earlier, you know, we're a custodian, and there's certain regulations that you have to follow. So whether it's us or whether it's somebody else, you know, you can go to whoever you want. Like I said, I'm not here to sell you on equity trust. You want to open up an account with us, that's great. But just do your homework, make sure they're regulated, you know, ask them for financial resources, you know, get a little bit of background. We're happy to share anything with anybody. We're pretty well known in this industry. I mean, you know, all the people who do real estate rentals and mobile homes and all that kind of stuff, they all know who we are. You know, we've been around long enough, and we're the only one that, you know, travels. You know, that my whole job with Equity Trust, I go out every week and do these things, you know, so I live in hotels and on a plane. So this is all I do. Most other places is all they do. Oh, we'll send you some information, or they might do a webinar. They don't have actual people come out and talk to you. They don't do these big, huge workshops. You know, they don't offer a lot of the things that we offer. But again, just make sure you do your homework, and you know, if it's us or if it's somebody else, just do your homework. Make sure you get somebody that's very reputable. You know, our big thing is customer service. We pride ourselves on customer service. We're very, very focused on that, to take care of our clients so we don't lose them. Now, we're not perfect. Of course we lose clients. I'd be lying if I said we didn't. But, you know, our average customer service person has over 5 years of experience, and you can see how many investments they've done. They've done over 8,800, and it's probably up to close to 10,000 now. This slide's a little old. Close to $10,000 investments each one of them have done, and a lot of those have just been in real estate. Real estate notes, almost 3,000. That's per person. We have over 400 people at my office in Westlake, so we have a pretty big office with a lot of people to take care of you. So, you know, you're not sitting there on, you know, on the phone waiting for somebody. This was our online system that I talked about. I can talk more offline about it, but everything that I talked about today, all those people that I showed you, all of those successes that they've had, all those transactions were handled under our portal, My Equity. You can go online, you can do that, just like with your bank. You can go online, you can look at your investments, what you did, when you did it, what was your returns, how much you spent, how much you made. It's all right there. It's 24/7, and it's mobile friendly. A lot of people are out in the field and they do their transactions, you know, they find a deal and they do it right there on their mobile phone with us. You know, get it done that way. Most of our people, when they open an account with us, they'll do their first couple with our customer service people, because there is a lot of paperwork on the back end, and that's what we do. We do the paperwork, and we make sure you do it right. We will hold your hand and walk you through it to make sure that it's done right. We will do that for you. We'll hold your hand and walk you through it. But once you've done a couple of them, all these other people, they're all doing it online now. They don't even talk to us anymore. You know, they're doing it online. I'll meet people. I do a lot of trade shows also. I'll be at a trade show and somebody will come up to me and I'm pitching somebody about us, and they'll just jump right in and, oh yeah, you know, I've done this and I've done that, and I do it on their whole portal, and I'm like, they think I set it up. I don't know who this guy is. He just came over and started talking, you know. But I get a lot of that at our trade shows. So it's a great tool to have, probably the best one out there in the industry. Here's the other great thing, and this is how I learned our industry. I knew a little bit about it, but our website is fantastic, and it's in the information there that I sent to you. Our website has more information than anybody's website out there that I've ever seen. We've got so much stuff on our website, I'm not even sure what we have on our website. You know, there is so much information, there's so much educational material, there's pre-recorded webinars, there's customer testimonials, there's stuff that you can download. I mean, you could literally spend hours and hours and hours educating yourself on our website. We've got so much great material on our website, it's unbelievable. Like I said, I go on that thing probably once a week, and I'm still getting lost, and I'm like, oh wow, look at this, look at that. And it's always being updated too, especially with a lot of our customer testimonials and stories like that. So you can go on there, you know, in any of the live webinars that we do, we record them and we post them on our website, so you can go and listen to our webinars too, which is kind of nice. So I talked at the very beginning about our wealth building workshop. and I passed out a sheet to everybody. We do have one coming up. I'm not sure what the date is. It's in 18th. Okay, it's in Charlotte. So what's that? 4.5 hours from here. So if anybody's interested, you know, you can either fill that out, or you can call our office and talk to people, or you can go on our website and you can register on our website too. You know, and if you're really interested in it, I'd encourage you to go to one of these things, because you know, if you're pretty impressed what I have to tell you, when you hear John Bowens, he's our other speaker, he stands up here for, you know, all day long, 8 hours, talking about, you know, really in depth. He really gets into in depth with it, really gets into the law part of it to teach you. But you get to meet a lot of customers and a lot of customer testimonials, because we do invite our customers. So if you can make it, I'd encourage you. But again, we have them all over the country. We do them almost every Saturday. So, you know, these are just some other ones coming up: Jacksonville, Louisville, Denver. You can go to any one. You know, you can go to any one of these things that you want to. It's up to you. I'm just throwing it out there. You don't have to go if you don't want to, but if you're interested, fill that out. I'll take it with me, or go on our website and, you know, you can go there and sign up for it. Probably be the easiest thing. The other thing is, people say, well, how much does it cost, Dean? Well, I'm not going to get into the cost, and the reason being, because I handed it out to you. By law, we have to share our pricing. So of the flyers that I sent you, this flyer is in there. Our pricing is very simple, okay? It's $50 to open up an account. That's all you need to open it. The minimum that you can put, $500 is a minimum investment. You don't have to put $500,000. You want to open up an account and start with $500, you put $500 in, you can do it on a credit card. So it's $50 to open the account, and then you pay an annual fee, and it's on the sheet that I sent you. The annual fee is based on the value of your portfolio at that time, and then every year we take a look at it and look at it again. Okay, you went from $200,000 to $400,000, so now you have a new fee, and that's all that you pay. A lot of, or I should say most of our competitors, they've got a lot of hidden fees in there. They charge you a lot of transaction fees. Every time you do a transaction, they charge you a fee for this, they charge you a fee for that. We've got a couple additional fees besides that. If you need something wire transferred, there's a $30 fee for that. And if you need expedited services, which is something you need done that day or within 24 hours, it's $75. Those are the only other two fees that we have. So we've got the fee based on how much money you have in there, and those two fees. If you're going to wire transfer something, or if you need expedited service. Our average customer pays about $480 a year in fees, which I think is around the $100,000. Yeah, so our average customer has $100,000 to $200,000 in their account. They pay $480, which is pennies for the money that you see that they're making. I mean, that's a pretty small, single-digit or less percentage that they're paying for it, you know. So, and again, I passed out the fee because we had to. I'm going to do my drawing now, so I don't know if everybody, if you haven't, if you could fill out your card for me, and then I'm going to come and pass it around. And then also what you're going to get by filling that out, by leaving me your phone number and your email address, I'm going to send you.
I'm just going to pass them around.
Here, if you need some more, and there's a fish bowl. You can have everybody put them in there, because I'm going to do a draw. I passed them out. In case anybody needs one, Susan's got one if you need one. And then you can pop them in her bowl. I'm going to, you know, for the people who don't, I've only got 2 books to give away, but for the people who don't win the book, I'm going to send you a digital download of the book. That's why I'm having you fill those cards out. Number one, I'm going to send you a digital download of the book, but I'm also going to send you a double video package of some things by Dick Dessage and his son. They're going to be talking about the industry. They're going to be talking about some investments. So even if you don't win the hard copy book, I'm still going to send it to you. And this double video package is going to talk a lot about what I talked today, and the focus is going to be on real estate. And it's going to take a real deep dive into it. And the book's going to have there's going to be like 30 case studies in that digital book that I send you. So 2 of you will get the real book. I'll mail them to you. The rest of you will get the book. It'll just be a digital download along with the double video package. And again, this is a sheet. If anybody is seriously interested in opening up account, just come see me when we're all done. I'll have you fill this form out, and I'll take it back with me. And we'll do the drawing as soon as Susan is done, if everybody can make sure they get it in there. And I'm done. And now I can, and thank you. I'll answer any questions that you may have. Yes, sir.
If you use the IRA funding, okay, for
I'm sorry, I didn't know what you were doing.
how does that affect your income and personal credit or debt to income ratio?
No, nothing to do with it. Yep, yep, nothing to do with it. Did you have a question?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, well, I do credit.
If you have a Roth IRA, or you have to be working in order to have one, you or
You are your spouse. You have to have some,
spouse is working and you're not working, you can still qualify.
absolutely.
But you
yes.
have to be working, somebody has to.
Somebody's got to be working of the two. Yeah, the husband or the wife. One, they don't both have to work.
It has to be a job that sends you
You have to show W-2 income.
W-2 income.
Yes, yes. So if you don't work and your spouse does, you're good. You can both open one up.
How did that modeling deal work when you talk about a W-2?
He's got to fill out, there's some special paperwork from the IRS that he's got to fill out to show that that individual had earned income. You know, that's the way around it. There's a special documentation paper, and we help you with that. Again, we're going to help you with all that back end and all that administrative stuff that you don't know or you don't understand. We're going to do that. We're going to have the forms for you and tell you it needs to be filled out and help you with all of that. So, yes.
If you're just a real estate investor and you don't work a job where you get a W-2, well, how would we qualify? If this is the only money that you're making from your real estate.
Do you have a 1099?
Yeah.
Okay.
1099 some people, right?
Yeah, we can get around it with that.
Okay.
Yeah, our people can help you with that. Yes, that's not a problem. We can do that. Yeah, our people would help you with that. Yes.
How do you determine valuation if you have properties? Like Jason's fee. Like if I have, in my estimate, $500,000 worth of real estate, and I tell,
It's based on the amount of money that's in the account.
in the account only.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so it's not what your valuation.
No, no. What'll happen is now when you sell that, the next year, we're going to know that, So, yeah, that's how that works. It's a value, it's a year from the, it's not calendar year, it's year to year from the time you opened it. So if you opened it today, it's from now until next, whatever the day is, May 13th. That's how the year goes, from the day you opened it.
It looks like bars. It looks like you've got more than 2 pages. How many pages have you got? Because I came in late.
Well, only thing that matters is what's in the account. Yeah, just what's in there. Yes, sir.
Does the account through equity trust or do you do it through a bank? Like I have self-directed IRA through a smaller company, but I use Wells Fargo as my actual bank.
Yes, we have a bank that holds the money. Yes, we don't actually hold the money. Yeah, we use Citibank, I believe, who holds our funds. Yes, they hold it. We don't.
So you're not involved in any of the transactions like rental payments or payment of bills? You don't see any of that? That's just all done in the checkbook?
No, we don't do checkbook. Okay, that's all done through the My Equity. Yeah, we do that. That all that still has to be done out of the IRA, but we do that instead of you're writing the check and doing it. With us, we're doing it. You're directing us. Hey, Dean, this here's the rental money that I got. That person, let's say you got a rental property. That rental property money's got to be their checks got to be written in a specific way into that IRA. It's got to be deposited into that IRA. All right, and anything that you do, instead of you writing the check, you tell, hey Dean, I got to pay this, I got to pay that. That's got to come out of the IRA. So we're actually doing it. You're telling us what to do, and we're doing it on your behalf.
So that's not how it works.
Right, you're different. You've got the checkbook, which you're doing it yourself. Yes. And the reason we don't do checkbook IRA, there's a ton of mistakes that happen And typically, and I'm not trying to badmouth any companies, but those companies kind of don't guide you and tell you if you did it right or if you did it wrong, or if you did a disqualified transaction, or if you know, did something that you shouldn't do, because the reason they do it that way is, you know, our hands, you wrote the check, it's your problem. I don't have nothing to do with it. With us, we're doing it. So we're making sure it's done 100% wrong or right. So if the IRS comes back, they're going to come back at us, not you. But we're covered because we know what we're doing. That's one of the reasons we don't do that, is because, you know, we like to do it. We know what the rules are. And if there's something you want to do and it can't be done, we'll tell you. We're saying, you know, we can't do this. We won't do it. We won't do this. Yeah. There's instances where some people want to do some things that you can't do, and we tell them, you know what, that's a no-no. If you want to do it, go do it somewhere else, but you can't do it with us because, number one, we have to report it to the IRS, and then they make you, you know, wipe that account out, and they force a withdrawal on you. So yeah, we do not do the checkbook, but yeah, I know what you have, and if that's what you like, that's fine. So yeah, we're doing it instead of you. That's all.
Question, sir.
Yes.
So, if I make a contribution for my newly born child, is that deducted out of my level of contribution or not?
In a Roth,
Yes.
you have to, if you make that contribution, a couple things. All right, you got to somehow pay him for something. You got to show some income.
Right.
Take pictures, and he's a model. She's a model. And then you got to pay taxes on that contribution up front.
So my question though is, the grandchild that was an example earlier,
Right.
what is that, grandfather?
Yeah, the grandfather
Yeah.
took his picture.
Contributed right away, right?
He contributed right away.
Right.
Put $6,000 in there.
Right.
He paid, 20%.
So is that deducted out of the grandfather's allowable contribution or not?
Yes, that's got to be deducted.
Okay.
Yes. So in that case, yes, because he's the, he's the one controlling it.
Of course.
Yes. Yep.
So
Any others? Yes.
I have two questions. One of them is, so when you were talking about the Roth conversion, can you do that from a 401k into a Roth, or
Yes.
does it just, okay?
Yes, which is what one of them, one of the success stories was. Yes, you can. But, you got to watch that. You got to check with your current person who the administrator is with that 401k. You have to see what their rules and regulations are. Some of them let you do it and some of them don't. You've got to check with the person who's in charge of that and see what their rules and regulations are.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about the Roth conversion, you said something about a time limit that I didn't understand. Like when you were converting from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, you said something when you were talking about the installments. It sounded like you said there was some sort of like time limit in which you could do.
Oh, the number of installments that you can do in 1 year. Yeah, it's 1 year.
Oh, okay. So there's a
Yeah,
limit.
so let's say you had $100,000, but you didn't have the money to pay the $100,000. You could do it in $10,000 installments and pay the tax on the $10,000 each time for only 1 year, and that's it. Then you can't do it no more. Can't do it no more after that. You can do it as many times as you want for the first year, and that's it.
So, well, what if you just did like one conversion each year? You would be able to keep doing that, right? Or do
No,
you,
once you make that conversion over,
oh, you have to convert the whole thing at once.
no, you don't have to convert the whole thing at once, but you're only allowed to do one conversion, is all you're allowed to do.
You give them a year to do
And
it.
yes, you have a year to do that. Yes.
You better have enough money to pay taxes for that.
Well,
whole year.
yes. And that's the reason we showed you, if you don't have enough money to do the taxes, try to do it in the installment. Now, what you can do is convert, the money over, get the big one going. Unfortunately, you can't convert another Roth over, but you can start another Roth. Yeah, you can start another one. You know,
Then
you
if
still
you
have
start
it.
another one, you can do another conversion?
No, you gotta start that one regular. Yeah, you're only allowed that one, that's called the back door. And typically, the only people who do that are the people who make too much money. We've all heard of Mitt Romney, and Mitt Romney, how he brags about his $100 million that he's got in his IRA. That's what he did. That's how Mitt Romney made all that money. He did a backdoor Roth conversion. He had all that money, he pumped it into his IRA, he paid the taxes, got them out of the way, and then he started investing, you know, he started making all those investments that he made into his Roth, and then, you know, he brags about how much money he made. But he made a lot of money. Yes, sir?
Yeah, your Gary example you talked about that you parted with yourself with the Roth as well as cash. So if you purchase a property, can you refinance it afterwards with that structure?
You can. There are some rules and regulations, and there's special banks, and we have those banks of who you need to go to. That's something you'd have to talk to our people. That can be done, but it's very tricky on how that's got to be done. And there's only about 7 or 8 banks that will do that in this industry, and they've got certain guidelines. It gets pretty complex. But that's something that we can talk to you about if you're interested in that. You know, our people at our office can talk to you because it is a pretty complex process. Or we can give you the bank, the one that we work with, and you can talk directly to them because they have some rules and regulations. They have some limitations and minimums to work with them for that. Yes?
So again, this conversion is just a one-time thing, and it could be, if there's you got a $100,000 pension sitting there, you can just throw all that.
Put it all in there.
Taxes out of that.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, a lot of people take the taxes out of the money. You know, they'll have 100 grand. They'll take, you know, let's say you fall in the 25%. They'll take the 25 out and put 75 in. That's fine. You know, but if at all possible, you know, the whole object here is to get as much in there, you know, as you can right off the bat. Because once it's in there, now it all grows tax-free for the rest of the time.
But could it also be that you have you're not in a large tax bracket at the particular you invested in?
Yeah, that's a great point that David just said. If you happen to have a bad year, you didn't make a whole lot of money, that's the year to do it, is when your tax bracket's really low. Good point. Yes, that's a very good point. Yes. Excellent point. Yes, sir.
Would you have to pay the 10% penalty on that $25,000 of that example? So you're going to take money to pay the taxes. Well, but since you're not 59 and a half, would you have to pay the 10% penalty?
No, because you're not withdrawing, you're moving it, you're converting it. You're not, technically you're not withdrawing it, you're converting it. And there's a special IRA form, I think it's a 5890, that you have to fill out, that we fill out, showing that you did that so you don't have to pay that 10% penalty. Yes.
What if you're with 59 and a half, you live in a different country, and you want to get that IRA out of your Roth?
That's a good question.
Would that
I don't
country
know.
tax that?
I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that one.
Maybe
Living
the country would tax that.
I don't know. That's a great question. I don't have the answer for that one. No one's ever asked me that. I don't know if you'd pay our tax or if you'd pay the other country's tax. I don't
Or
know.
both?
Well,
Maybe both. I don't know.
well, for Roth, you wouldn't pay it when you stay here, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. You know, and that question, you know, all the information I gave you, our phone number's on there. You know, feel free to call our office and ask that question, because that's a question I honestly don't know the answer to. Never had anybody ask me.
I've never heard that one either.
But it's a good question.
Who knows where I am?
It's a good question. Yeah. Yeah,
So
Vince.
if you're just getting started, right, you can, you know, if you're under 59 years
59 and a half.
old, you can put $6 grand in it. You pay the what, $1,200 in tax or whatever it end up
Mm-hmm.
being. How do you keep adding money into the account? Like, that's where I'm a little bit confused at. So you only have $6 grand in there,
Right,
because we're not rolling in on and in 401k. We haven't
Right.
accrued any of that.
right.
So how do you keep putting money in it? Do you have to take part of the $6 grand out, use that as an investment, and slowly?
Yeah, use that investment and slowly build it up. What
Okay.
a lot of people will do, they'll partner with somebody. You know, they'll partner with somebody that's got the money.
Right.
and you'll work out a deal. It's called a JV. It's a joint venture. Me and you'll go together on a joint venture. I'll say, you know, maybe you found a good property, okay?
Right.
You found it, all right? You come to me and say, Dean, I got this property. It's 100 grand. You know, I've only got 5 grand to put in. You know, oh, I've got 95 grand. You know, oh, and then we can turn around. We can sell it for 150. You know, would you be willing to split the profits 50-50? You know, well, sure, because number one, you brought the deal to the table with me.
Right.
So I do that. A lot of people do that joint venture thing. So you partner with somebody to help to build that up, is what you do.
Also, per tax year, it's 6,000.
Right.
So
Yes.
I'm wondering if his question was, I could put an initial 6,000, but then the clock resets the following year, right?
Yes.
So you have 6,000 per year you can input
Per
back
year, and
to the account. Per
and-
tax year, yeah.
the best time, there's another way around that too, David, and we don't talk about it now because April 15th is passed. All right, on January 1st of next year, okay, you can open, if you open up an account between January 1st before April 15th and you put $6,000 in, you can actually put $12,000 in, because what they'll let you do, because you're doing it in that time frame from January 1st to April 15th, that $6,000 that you're putting in is $6,000 for 2020. They let you do a catch-up for 2019 and put another $6,000 in. So a lot of people will do it those first 3.5 months of the year, because now you can do 12.
Right.
You can do that.
So I
To build
can't.
it up quickly.
As long as you haven't put any in 2019.
Right, right. Just wait till January to do it. Right.
What happens if I want to put more than 12 in, or more than 6 in, and I can't? I can only, if I start with 6, that's all I got, and every year I can only put 6 in? Is that?
You can put that 6 in, but once that account is open, okay, you're going to put as much of your, the way it's going to grow is through the profits of your salary. You put as much as you want of those, well, all the profits have to go in there.
Right, right,
It's
okay.
unlimited,
Gotcha.
unlimited.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The whole key here is to get the thing open, and now once it's open and once you start doing your deals, whether you're doing a buy and hold or whether you're doing a rental or whether you're doing a flip or whatever, a lot of people will do flips. They'll do 2 or 3 a year, and we call them rinse and repeat. That's how they build it up. They'll go and get a small property, you know, make 10 grand, and turn around and make 15, then turn around and make 20. Now all of a sudden the first year they make 35 grand, then the next year they're up to 100 grand, the next year, you know, up to 200. It's a rinse and repeat. I will tell you this, you want to be very careful of how many deals that you do a year. On notes, all right, you can do as many notes as you want. You do 100 notes a year if you want, okay? On the real estate deals, you want to be very careful. There's no case study or no written law, but the IRS frowns. We like to tell you to keep those flips at 3 or less for the year. Again, there's no written rule from the IRS, and people have challenged it in court, and some of them have lost because what the IRS looked at. The purpose of these IRAs is to build your wealth for retirement, not a business. And a lot of people try to use it as a business, and the IRA will look at that as a business and want you to pay the taxes, the UBIT taxes on it, so that you did 8 or 9 or 10 deals. In our estimation, you're running a business out of your IRA, you can't do that, we're going to force you to take it. Now you got a lawsuit and you'll never beat the IRS. So, you know, we tell people, keep it at 3 or less, is what we recommend. Keep it at 3 or less so you don't
But you
get...
can hold as many mortgages as you
Yeah,
want.
hold as many as you want. Yeah.
I think they just passed a new law that said that you, from the time you buy until the time you sell, has to be at least 90 days.
That I don't know about. Did they just pass a law about that? You could be right, I don't know.
I've heard that.
Did you? That's first I've heard. Anybody else know about that? Me neither.
My
Yeah.
son-in-law does flips, and he's the one that told
Is
me.
that what he told you? Could be. I've never heard it.
Was he using an IRA?
Oh, I don't know
No, this is
really what
probably
he
all
does.
flips in general.
Just flips
Yeah,
in general.
just flip in general, probably.
Right.
That doesn't have nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
If it's an IRA, it's
Could be. I mean, there are people out there doing flips every month. You know, not in IRAs, but you know. So I don't know. Could be. I don't know. I don't know why the IRS would care. They're getting their money out of this. Right?
how long they pay tax?
Yes, sir.
The IRA is supposed to set up for individual retirement, so there could be a company that you can, a company name or S corporation, anything that can set.
You could do an LLC, not an S corp.
Gotcha.
Not an S corp. LLC, yes.
How many? If you do 1 or 2, or if you have
Yeah.
one?
Yeah, they're a little bit more complex. The S corp, for whatever reason, it can't be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
As many LLCs you.
Yeah, S corp or an annuity. Annuity can't be done either.
Yeah, I know what I mean.
Yeah.
And the IRA contribution is higher when you have a business, right? As a self.
Yes, those were the ones that I didn't really cover because they're pretty complex. That's the simple, the SEP, the 401, the solo 401k.
But there
Yeah.
are Roth options too.
Yeah, they have a Roth 401k for people that own their own business. There are certain rules and stipulations, and I think it's around up to, I think you can go as high as about 62.5 on one of those, 62,500. Yeah, but they're pretty complex though. There's a lot of, that's why we don't really cover it. I
But
mean,
would you help with that?
oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Our people would absolutely cover it with you. Yep. Yeah, we don't get into it because that's like just covering those ones, or could be a couple-hour conversation because of all the rules, all the regulations, what you can do, what you can't do, how many employees you have, which employees have to contribute, which don't, how much you got to contribute. I mean, there's just, yeah, the contributions are high, but there's some things you have to follow. Yeah.
Okay, we probably have time for maybe one more question, and then I think you're going to do a drawing. And
Yep.
however much kind of wrapping up we want to do. So if
I
somebody's
came
got
a little
really
late
good
so I
final
didn't get all the
question.
paperwork.
Oh, I got plenty of paperwork. I'll get that for you.
All right,
Thank
that's
you.
the last question. Okay? Ruined it for everybody.
Take a drawing. Let me get my glasses because without them, I won't be able to see. All right, let's see. Looks like Nathan. All right. Nathan, do me a favor. Write your address on there so I know where to send it. I'm going to pull out another one. There. All right. This one is Shelley. All right.
Right,
If you
right.
would put your address on there, I'll get that back from you and I'll send that book to you. All right, well, thanks again, everybody. Let me get your paperwork. If anybody is interested in an can come see me. I'll give you one of these. But thanks, everybody. Thank you.